Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pails, steel-toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure. Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jalen.
Can I quote it, John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
There he is. Here's my guy.
Love that theme music. Burn out.
Yeah, that's our. I'm supposed to continue it with the rolling, but I don't know what he's doing. He must be sleeping over there. But anyways, it's all good. Sherrod Blakely joining me. There it is. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, Sherrod Blakely in the house. Jimmy Toscano in the house.
Don't start rapping, Jimmy. Don't do it.
I'm gonna shut that up real quick.
Because I see you kind of like, Sherrod is in the house. Jimmy's Stop.
Don't let me get the bars going. Is that what they say? Anyways, 133-129 Celtics kind of squeaked one out here, Sherrod. We didn't expect a close one, I guess, tonight, but the way this game started, I think you got to be happy with the way it ended. A really good second half by the Celtics, especially that third quarter. We'll get all into it. Sherrod's at the game. Bobby Manning is at the game. John Zanis is on load management. Josue Pavone, I think it must be date night for Josue. We're not really sure. Rumor is he had a late one with our good friend Ahmed too. So we'll see what's going on with that.
Oh boy,
I had to call him enough.
I don't want those two to get together. There's nothing good can happen.
No, nothing too good. But it's all good for us over here. It's another win for the Celtics, and again, they made it fun. We'll say that they made it fun for the fans at the Garden tonight, the TD Garden. I think you went into this one with maybe low expectations for the fun factor. Thought maybe there was a blowout potential, but give the Wizards credit. They came out gunning tonight. They came out strong, playing full court, back and forth, running, playing aggressive off Celtics misses. And I think it took the Celtics a little bit to adjust their offensive game plan, because it looked like instead of in the first half when they could have been attacking a lot more in the paint, they were settling a little bit for some threes. Yeah, the shots were not falling, and when they did go down low, Sherrod, they had success, and it started with our good friend KP, Kristaps Porzingis.
He was a matchup that they just had no answer for, and there were times where you saw he'd get the ball on an elbow or on a block, and he looks behind him, and it's like freaking Tyus Jones, and it's just like feast time. Snacks. Cupcakes.
Yeah.
He had the mismatch. It seemed pretty much every possession. He finished the game with I think like 30 points, but he could have easily had another 15 or 20. And to your point, Jimmy, the thing that jumped out to me, and the word to me was aggressive. I thought Washington was aggressive at both ends of the floor. They're not the most talented team in the league. Obviously, we only got 9 wins on the season, 42 losses. But they came with an aggressive mindset, and they didn't allow the Celtics to just kind of waltz down and do whatever they wanted to do at either end of the floor. And so if you're Washington, that's the silver lining that you take from this. And if you're the Celtics, there was never a point where you felt that they had this Washington team on their backs and down out for the count. Even though the third quarter was good and they were able to go up by as many as 15, it still didn't feel as though they had this game done and over with. It felt like they were in control, but it did not feel like it was over. And Washington, to their credit, they kept hanging in there, scrapping, making plays, making shots that kept them in the game. And so, if you're the Celtics, you just want to get a win out of this game. Get a win and get your guys healthy. Two things I did not like about this game, though, was the Celtics transition defense. Washington got too many damn layups in transition. It's like 36-18 in fast break points. And I didn't like the fact that, and I think Tatum played damn almost 40 minutes. I think it was like 38, 39, something like that, against a team with 9 wins. Tatum's minutes should be lower. Jalen's minutes should be lower. They should have had one of those games where no one cracked more than 30 minutes or so. But give Washington credit. It forced Joe Mazzulla to play his guys their normal minutes. And this was a game that, if you're the Celtics in a perfect world, in an ideal world, you're going to be able to cut back a little bit on your core guys' minutes. And they just weren't able to do that because Washington never was out of the game to where, or in a position where the Celtics pretty much had it wrapped up. That just didn't happen to the final. But,
yeah. And again, what did they have? 18 fast break points in that first quarter. The Wizards did.
Yeah.
They were getting out in the break. They were just capitalizing on Celtics misses, and I think the Celtics again. And I didn't want to start on a negative note because they did win this game, but there was some things to like in this game, and there were certainly some things to not like. And this was looking like another example of a Celtics team that was kind of playing with their food a little bit, that was not taking the opponent seriously. And it's easy to look at the Wizards and say, "Yeah, I'm not going to take you seriously. You're led by Jordan Poole and
Yeah.
Kuzma and those. No offense, or a little bit of offense, but the Wizards had a couple guys tonight. Who is this guy, Kispert? Man, he was all over the place. He might have been the best guy on
He
the
was
court
a
tonight.
he was the best player. But the thing is, he's one of those guys that, again, for him, a lot of his success came about by playing off of other guys.
Yeah.
When you look at Jordan Poole, you look at Kuzma, those guys are going to be the focal points. But
Right.
Kispert, I mean, he did what he did in Gonzaga. I mean, he was a shot maker.
Yeah.
That's
No,
what
he was
does.
everywhere.
And he was knocking down shots. He's got good size. In many respects, he's kind of like their version of Sam Hauser, although I think Sam is actually a little bit more athletic than.
Damn, this Kispert guy was doing stuff I've never seen Sam
He
Hauser do.
He can just knock down shots. He was just knocking down shots, Jimmy.
Yeah.
He wasn't doing anything.
He had some nice moves to the basket tonight too. I got to give him a little bit of credit. And then Koulibaly, a guy that I think's got a good future in this league. Obviously,
He's going to be nice.
But yeah, exactly. He seems, he's still coming in his own a little bit, but the growth I think that he's shown to start the year. So Wizards have a nice little thing going there, and I think they got punched in the mouth a little bit to start this game off. And I imagine Joe lit into them at halftime because the way that they closed that second quarter, Sherrod, that was pathetic. That was nothing short of pathetic.
Yeah. And Joe has every reason to rip them for that because it's inexcusable. You have been the best team at home all season long. This is one of the worst teams, not just in the East, but in the NBA. And there you are, like, basically, trying, to get back to the game and stay within striking distance of them. That should never happen. I mean, you shouldn't need a damn Peyton Pritchard half-court prayer to make it, relatively close game at that point. This was
again.
You are. That's okay, Jimmy.
Again, man.
You've been blurry all your life, Jimmy. It's okay. You're still my guy, though.
We got to get Chelsea to get me a better webcam. This guy's skimping over here. But let me ask you a question, Sherrod. What's the word to describe when the Celtics put in a performance like this? Is it concerned? Is it annoyed? Is it disappointed? Is it angry? Is it like, do you not care? I mean, because there's been a few of these now, and they're starting, I think, to show themselves a little bit more often than they did, let's say, the first quarter, first third of the season. As I return here to everyone can see my beautiful face now. What is it? Yeah, somebody in the comments says bored. Are they bored? Or really want to know is what are your feelings, not what they are.
Well, when I see them have games like this, my first thought is just lethargic. Don't give a F. We don't have to play our A game to beat these guys. We don't even have to play our B or C game. This was I couldn't even call this an average game for the Celtics. I mean, they did not do as many good things as you want. They had the one matchup that they could have absolutely milked all game long, and that's whoever was guarding Porzingis. And they did a decent amount of that, but it felt like they could have done more. It took Tatum a while to get going, and the thing about Tatum, his numbers look great, but if you watch him play in the first half, it was not pretty. And I'm not sure what's going on with Jalen. Jalen was really good. Shot making, I thought his defense was good, and then the ball just stopped coming his way, and he was on the bench just resting. And when Jalen is having a highly efficient game and he's getting other guys involved, I want him out there a lot. And I thought he could have played a couple more minutes than he wound up playing. But at the end of the day, if you're the Celtics, did we get the win? Check. Did we get through this game healthy? Check. And once you can check those two boxes off, really everything else is just water under the bridge.
You mentioned Jalen. I thought it was an interesting Jalen night tonight because up until late in the game, he didn't even take a 3-pointer in this one shot, and he has been, and he missed it. He has been struggling from three over the last handful of games here, and I thought he made a point tonight to try to score just in the paint, mid-range game, kind of, and which he's been effective at all year.
Yeah.
He's been really good shooting from and scoring, and from inside the three. So I don't know if he's just saying, I'm gonna play to my strengths right now. I'm not gonna force threes. I'm gonna take what I can get inside there and be aggressive at that. Now, still, and we got over here a -15 in this one, so not the number you want to see. Obviously, wasn't a part of that third quarter comeback that they had, that nice little stretch run they had, led by again. I think it was that was a lot of Tatum, and we'll get into Tatum in a little bit. But you mentioned Brown, and I just thought it was worth mentioning that 9 of 15, no free throws, and 1 3-pointer. So 15 field goals tonight from inside the 3-point line. That is rare, to say the least. I'm more likely to see 15 3-point attempts than 15 2-point attempts.
Yeah, and it was a clear, effort on his part to just take what the defense gives you. And they're so afraid, and most teams are, of, Jalen getting all the way to the rim, that he was just selling on the mid-range, which is great for him because he could knock that shot down. He was another guy that they had trouble, Washington, that is guarding him. And Jalen wisely took the shots that he was able to get and didn't bail them out defensively and just take threes. Tatum was a little bit more balanced in terms of his shot selection. He took 22 shots, 10 of them were threes. So you're talking, pretty fairly balanced equality in terms of 2-pointers versus 3-pointers. But Jalen, even though he was -15, I really liked what I saw out of him today. I like the shot selection. I like the fact that defensively, he made some really nice plays, got in guys' face, crowded them, forced them to take some contested shots that, were misses or air balls. I thought this is one of those games where the plus minus doesn't really, I think, reflect the way he played. Like, they were not horrible when Jalen was on the floor tonight. I thought they were pretty good. It's just that Washington, he just – it was one of those stretches where Washington was knocking down lots of shots when he was out there, and it wasn't necessarily his guy, but he was part of the unit that was happening against. So,
I mean, they went on that quick run at the end of the second quarter. There was 9-0, just in the second quarter, and they had, it was a streaky game for sure. That second half, the Celtics went on their runs. They had multiple. I think they went 8-2 run, and maybe it was 12-2, something like that in the third, and they were able to flip that score right around. I mean, that's what good teams do against bad teams. And you didn't think, or you probably didn't expect the Wizards to be able to keep up that pace that they were on and that aggressiveness for a full 48. Got to give them credit for hanging in there and for giving it all they had. But at the end of the day, talent wins out, and this Wizards team is just nowhere near where the Celtics team is. We've talked about Porzingis off the top, and I do want to talk about Porzingis again in a bit. But Tatum tonight, a little bit of a tale of two halves. First half, you mentioned the struggling. I absolutely loved second half Tatum tonight.
That was
yeah. I mean, aggressive, driving to the hoop, throwing it down, and not just aggressive scoring, but how many assists he ended up with? 8 assists, and these were nice passes. These weren't just little, here you go. I mean, he was seeing the court well. He had a couple of nice passes to Drew Holiday, who made some good cuts. Really nice one where he drove to the rim and then kicked it back out. I forget who hit the three. It might have been Porzingis. I think it was. But when he's aggressive and driving to the rim, that forces defenses to collapse on him, and then guys are open. It's really what it comes down to. When it's just him, or when it's him or whoever it is, player B, focusing too much on that 3-point step back fadeaway that never goes in, that's when opposing teams get the ball in transition and they score in transition. And that's how you get your 18 fast break points in the first quarter. As soon as they switched it up offensively and they made a conscious effort to take it to this Wizards team that does not have an interior presence whatsoever. And you knew that was the game plan tonight. It had to be, because the other thing I want to get into, Sherrod, and I'll let you touch on Tatum, but I want to get into Porzingis right after that because they really focused on him. But the difference between Tatum first half and second half tonight.
Huge. I mean, it literally was a tale of two halves with Tatum. Offensively, I thought he was trying to deliver the knockout punch a little too much in the first half, thinking that, if I knock down this three, this this will do it. They'll falter. But in the second half, he did exactly what your best player is supposed to do. Make sure everyone else eats before you, so that when it comes to the end of the night, you can feast. You can take over, and he did that. His ability to suck in that Wizards defense and spray the ball to different guys, whether it's Drew Holiday, whether Sam, Hauser, whether whoever it was, Jaylen Brown, it didn't matter. He was getting the ball to all of his teammates, and that softened up that Wizards defense, which is already soft to begin with, so that he's able to go downhill and finish at the rim with the left hand. He's able to get easy dunks, get the ball on the block, and force their defense to react to what you've already done. And it kept Washington in the second half. They were just never able to get any kind of flow or rhythm on how to contain Tatum and how to make him a non-factor. Because the thing that he continues to evolve into, he is becoming a multi-talented impact player offensively. He's getting away from just being a guy that shoots threes and gets points that way. He's becoming more of a assist guy, a hockey assist guy. Joe Mazzulla, as we know, he likes to take pride in those potential assists. A lot of those potential assists that that we've been talking about with Tatum and Brown, actually became assists. Guys were knocking down shots, and again, this, because of this Wizards defense, it is what it is. Guys were knocking down open shots, and that's one of the things that sometimes frustrates people with Jason, is that if he just looks to pass a little bit more than he has historically, he's going to find guys who are wide open. And I think right now he's kind of in this flow where he's doing exactly that. He's looking for guys who are in position to knock down shots. And one of those guys, I thought tonight, we'll talk about him later maybe, but Drew Holiday, this was one of the better games we've seen Drew in terms of shot making in a while. But Tatum, again, when your best player has a feed everyone else mentality and does that early on, you're going to have nights where you're not going to be able to shoot it as well as you want consistently, but you're going to make sure that your team is not totally taken out of the game because you're making sure everyone else is involved.
Right. And I mean, Tatum could have fallen into bad habits again and just continued to force that three in that second half. But instead he just went into like that killer mentality, that killer mode where it's like, you know what? I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to work my way to the basket. I'm better than you. I'm quicker than you. I have better handle than you. And I can finish at the rim. And that's like the unlocked Jason Tatum, He's still going to take his three-pointers. And I don't want him to not take threes anymore. I'd like him to take better threes more often than he does. But the fact that he can just switch into that other attack mode, that opens things up, like you said, for everybody else. Now Drew Holiday is getting wide open threes because defenses are collapsing on guys like Tatum or Brown, and when he's being aggressive. Now Porzingis is getting wide open looks, and that's just and obviously Derek White, who had more of a quiet night tonight, but typically he's benefiting greatly when those guys are being aggressive. But I gotta tell you what, the guy who benefited most tonight, Sherrod, not just tonight. This has been a trend over the last handful of games now. And I've been calling for it. I've been calling for it all year. You traded for this guy in the offseason, Kristaps Porzingis. Figure out a way to utilize this guy as early and as often as you possibly can. He's your cheat code out there. He's a 7-footer who can score from all over, literally all over. 3-point, 18 feet, 15 feet, 3 feet. Wherever you put him, he's going to be able to score over the defender. Tonight, they made a point. It was one on the if you had access to that Celtics locker room before the game, one on the top list, feed Porzingis. That had to have been the top thing, and they did it. You got to give them credit. They exploited the mismatch for Porzingis. 18 field goal attempts tonight. That doesn't even tell a story. He went to the line 14 times. The guy took way more shots than the 18 that you see on the box score. And another credit to where it's due. 14 of 14 from the line, 34 points, 11 rebounds. He's been everything and more this team needs. But when you look at recently what his production's been, 18 field goals tonight, 19 last game, 17 before that, 15, 17. The last handful of games, Sherrod, they're really making a point. And then a couple after that, 21. So they're finally starting to say, oh, that's right. We have this guy on our team, and it's not just Tatum and Brown. You're now giving this, a very, very capable, quote unquote, third option. Some people might even say he's a second option on this team. And he's showing them why. I mean, to me, it's it's just nice to see that finally happening. It took a little bit, but it's not too late, at least.
Yeah, and you know, you knew that it was going to take them some time to just really get into a flow and rhythm, and frankly understand how to utilize them. I mean, remember, the core of this group has been together for a minute, and Porzingis is the new guy still coming in, and I know that he's had now 50 games or so to be with these guys, but you're talking about a group that has competed at the highest of levels for years. They've got way more than 50 some odd games. Like Tatum and Jalen, it wasn't like they were clicking at the first 50 games that they played together. It took them some time. So Porzingis, I think, is finally comfortable taking on a little bit more of an offensive load, because I think when he came here, he looked around and like most of us, and he says, Tatum, first team All NBA, Jalen, second team All NBA, 20 shots there, 18 shots there. Maybe I'll hit double figures. But clearly that's not enough, because he has so much more he can offer, so much more that he can give to the game. And the Celtics are doing a little bit better job of taking advantage of that, because think about this. Kyle Kuzma was a starting center. He's 6'9". So the guy that Porzingis is essentially being defended by early on, he's got a 5-inch advantage over that guy.
Right.
And when you start running switches and you get guys like Tyus Jones guarding him, you've got like a damn foot on this guy. Frankly, I think they should have got Porzingis the ball even more than they did, and they're making an effort to do that. But he is, as Jimmy, as you pointed out, he really is a cheat code for them. He's the one guy that pretty much every night they play, he's going to have a mismatch on offense. And because of the way they are on one string defensively, he's not going to be a liability at the other end of the floor. There's some guys that obviously are going to give him problems, because they give all bigs problems. But for the most part, Porzingis has done a decent job defensively. He's coming into his own as an offensive scoring threat, and he becomes one more problem that when teams are game planning against the Celtics, they've got to pay close attention to, because the Celtics, basically, they're starting five. You got 5 guys who can go for 30 on any given night. There's very few teams that you can look at and say they've got 5 guys, all 5 guys in their starting lineup can go for 30, and it would not be a surprise. It would not be, and Porzingis is one of those guys, and Porzingis is the one guy that typically has the most decisive mismatch. And it's good to see the Celtics recognizing that, and again, getting great value out of that.
Facts, my dog. We have a clip that we want to put up right now. This is talking about that second half sort of switch that the Celtics.
Who's talking? Is it Joe?
It's Joe. It's Joe. I think Gary asked him the question on, what did he say in the locker room to these guys to switch things up. Okay. Let's see if Ahmed is queuing it.
How do you allow 42 in the fourth after 16 in the third? What happened defensively in the fourth? They had 7 threes. What happened defensively in the fourth?
They shot 43%. A team that doesn't usually shoot that well shot 43% from 3.
Mm-hmm. And what did you say to them at halftime?
I showed them the 10 points in transition that I thought were effort-based, and that was it.
And how do you...
And I told a couple jokes in the third quarter.
Mine is sharing.
Let's hear the jokes.
No, pretty inappropriate jokes.
Okay. Oh, damn.
So it broke the tension, because we were playing with the expectation of why is the game going the way it's going right now, instead of just enjoying the fact that this is a game, so we should just compete.
Are you guys playing tight?
I'm not playing tight, but the expectation of how we think things should be. So I'm not playing tight. There were some good jokes, though.
I'm sure they were.
I'll share them off the record with you.
Okay.
Oh, see, there we go.
Hey,
look at that smile.
There's Weird Joe again. Amit, get me out of this. Thank you.
I like that Joe. I like that. That's not Weird Joe. That's the Joe I like.
I
like that Joe. You see the smile afterwards? I'll share that joke with you later.
I can't tell if it's a I like you smile, or I'll tell it to you later, like right before I kill you type.
Kill
of
you?
Yeah.
That's the murderous smile.
It's a murder. It's a very mischievous smile. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not really sure about that one. I don't know. But the last thing you see is that smile.
Right. But Joe, the one point he made that I think was really spot on was this is an atypical shooting night for Washington from 3-point range. They're one of the bottom 5 teams in the NBA in terms of 3-point percentage, and they shot better than 40. When a team is having a night like that, it's going to be a closer game than expected, because they're doing things above and beyond their typical run-of-the-mill type of game, which is what you expect when the team is 9-42. So Joe, I give them a little bit of credit for not being lulled into trying to jack their way back into the game. Like the Celtics took 34 threes, which is a low number for them, particularly against a team that is shooting lots of threes and making a lot of threes. We've seen time and time again where they'll see a team make a couple threes in a row, and all of a sudden they're not even trying to swing the ball and try to get in any type of motion action and get a good shot. They're just trying to jack threes to try to, if you can make threes, I can too. They didn't get lulled into that, which was good to see, because I know there were a couple of possessions where Tatum, I was pleasantly surprised where he passed up a shot, 3-point shot, instead of, which would have been a good shot. Instead, he tried to get a great one. And to me, a great one for anyone is a wide open shot. And they were able to get a decent amount of those because of their ability to keep the ball moving.
I like that Joe at least called them out for the effort-based points that they gave up, Sherrod. I mean, I think we all that was, if you never played basketball in your life or knew anything about basketball, you could just be like, something's not right there. That was too easy for those guys to score the way that they did. And so in that situation, I mean, you really don't have to say much, right? I mean, if you play the clip, these guys watch themselves lollygagging back on defense or just half-assing it up the court or even down the court, you're going to be able to say, okay, yeah, like we got to stop playing like assholes.
Yeah. And they did. And they were, and it wasn't just one guy either. I mean, early on, there were multiple guys who you could tell that their effort, their focus, their energy, whatever the hell you want to call it just wasn't where it needed to be. And that being said, it says a lot about how bad this Wizards team was, because even when they were playing a collective, like basically, walkthrough in an actual game, they were right there. They were. I mean, in the first half, like neither team was able to lead by more than 7 points. It wasn't until the third quarter that the Celtics started breaking it open and someone took a double-digit lead. So this was a game that the Celtics, like I say, they just weren't very good in the first half, and a lot of it was their own. It wasn't anything Washington was doing as much as it was them simply not locking in the way they need to, the way they're capable of. We saw more of that in the second half. We didn't see as much as I would have liked, but we saw more of it in the second half, and they were able to come out of here and get the win. A game that was, even with them kind of recalibrating in the second half, this game shouldn't have been a 4-point game.
No, and I think the difference, listen, when you're the Celtics and you're playing the Wizards, you kind of know that you can get away with playing the way that you're playing, because you assume that you can just flip the switch and turn it on and play like you did in the second half and win the game. That's fine and dandy. They're right. They can do that. But my problem with it has been, and this is the first time it's happened this season, it's happened a few times.
Right.
My problem with that has been, against a good team, there is no comeback like that. There is no ability to you can turn it up a notch or two and compete, but you can't expect to turn a 10-point deficit into a 15-point lead against a playoff caliber team. And if you get into those habits where you're taking plays off, you're taking quarters off, or you're coming out slow, or maybe you're not too up on the opponent where you're fired up enough to play, they punch you in the mouth. They're just going to keep punching. They're not going to. They are going to be talented to hold on to that lead, unlike a team like the Wizards, who you won't see in June or May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the thing is, they don't really have a problem getting up for good teams. They've had one or two hiccups this year, but for the most part, the better the team they play, the better they actually play, and a lot of it has to do with their focus. I think they're at a point now where they're anxious to get to the playoffs, but they know that the playoffs, it's a journey to get there, and they're not quite through the journey or to the point in the journey where they need to be locking in on that. So they need teams like Milwaukee and Philadelphia, teams that are at that upper echelon in the East, to play, not just to get a gauge of where they stack up against it, but just to keep them building that muscle memory to have the kind of focus that you're going to need in the postseason. They're going to have games where teams are going to make way more shots than they normally do. Are you going to have enough focus and wherewithal to transition and recalibrate what you need to do out there so that you can not allow the game to get out of hand? That's again, it's something that they're definitely.
So then, does it
It's
matter?
something to watch.
Does it matter then if it's just they get it for the big games anyways? Do we how do we think or talk about a game like this or a game against another bad team where this is going to happen? Do we care?
We do care, and we care because you still have to stack the W's so that you can get home court advantage. If you've got the best record at home this year, which they do, behind them is Denver. Denver's like 21-4 at home, and the Celtics slightly percentage points better than them in their building. You want to continue to keep that because that is something that it's probably going to win you a series. Right. At some point in the playoffs, you're going to have a best of 7, and that game 7 is going to be in your building. And that home court advantage may very well be what gets you over the hump out of that series and on to the next one. So it's important that you win these type of games against teams you're supposed to. Now, how you do it, not as important, but what I look for in these type of games, I look for the Peyton Pritchards, the Sam Hausers, the Al Horfords, the guys that are part of the rotation but aren't necessarily counted on to deliver big games. I look for them to make the most of these opportunities because they're the ones that, you want them to be able to hit the ground running. And the only way I think you can really do that is get reps and get opportunities so that when you do get your opportunity in the playoffs, even if it may be for a limited amount of time, you've got enough confidence and you got enough swag about you where I may only get, these next 4 minutes, but I'm going to get like 6 points. I'm going to make a steal. I'm going to do something that's going to help the team because when I was getting like 10, 12, 15 minutes in the regular season, I didn't waste time. I didn't allow the game to come to me. When you're a bench player, you can't do that. You got to go out there and get yours, especially when you're subbing in for a guy like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown or Porzingis. So I think these type of games are really important for the guys that are kind of, on the edges of what you do and what your core is. But for Jason Tatum, for Jaylen Brown, this was just, been there, done that, do this in my sleep. I mean, this is who they are. I mean, Tatum had a damn near triple-double tonight.
Yeah, I know.
And he basically did most of his damage in the third quarter.
Yeah. That third quarter was basically him saying, I'm still Jason Tatum. I think he had 13 in that quarter. A couple nice passes. He was the reason behind that comeback that they made in that third quarter. Mm-hmm. Somebody commented at the beginning of the show, Kristaps Porzingis would be a good futures bet for NBA Finals MVP. I don't think you can make that bet yet. Oh, this isn't even the one. Damn it. I don't think you can make that bet yet, but you can make a lot of other bets right now on FanDuel Sportsbook, guys.
That's an interesting one.
As the Garden Report has been brought to you by. And right now, we're talking about NBA playoffs, Sherrod. Those are months away. The ultimate NFL playoff is 2 days from now. We're talking about
Here we go.
The big game in Las Vegas. Radio Row was on fire all week. Patriots got dragged. I think they were the biggest losers of Radio Row this week, probably deservedly. So they were lining up like buffet style. Everyone was lining up to dog the Pats this week, I think, on Radio Row, and they did. But I digress. Super Bowl is this Sunday, and we all know that as fun as the game is, what's more fun is,
prop bets.
Prop bets. That's right. There's probably thousands of prop bets that you can make right now, and FanDuel is the place to do it. And right now, guys, you can get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. If you go to FanDuel.com/Boston. So again, you got to sign up for the app now. Place your bet. Hopefully you win the bet, or you have to win the bet. So try to find something with a heavy favorite. Okay. Once you get the $200 of bonus bets, that's when you start. You go to the NFL section on FanDuel. You go through the game. There's just sections and sections of different things things you never even knew you could bet on. Okay, you can bet on. I don't even want to think about how many things you can bet on because I'll get a little too excited, Sherrod. I'm going to ask you one thing, Sherrod. When it comes down to the main bet, who do you bet in this game? Let me just give you the line right here so we know what we're betting on. We got San Fran is -2.5 right now. The over under is 47.5. Those are the two main bets. So if you're gonna bet San Fran -2.5, or you're gonna bet A money line on either team. What do you got?
I'm taking Kansas City.
You're taking Kansas City with the points or money line?
With the points.
Okay. You're
With the
taking
points.
you're taking Mahomes with the points. You're basically saying.
I absolutely listen. Mahomes is a different kind of dude in these games. He is one to me. Him and Tom Brady. Yes, I'm gonna throw Tom Brady's name in the mix. They are the cheat codes. They're the cheat codes when it comes to Super Bowl. They're not always going to be their absolute best, but they figure out a way to win. And that's all that's literally the only thing that you care about when you are an NFL quarterback in the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter if you throw for 300 yards or you throw 7 picks. If you throw 7 picks and you win 24-23, guess what? You're still a Super Bowl freaking champion. That's what this is about. I don't feel good about Purdy stepping up and carrying the night. And McCaffrey, who is just phenomenal, best running back in the game. I think he's going to be impactful, obviously, but I don't think he's going to be able to carry them. And they're gonna need for them to win this game. They're going to need someone to carry them.
It's CMC.
Chiefs, the Chiefs have 2 guys who've done that, and in Mahomes and Kelsey. So it's like I got 2 guys I know can win this game and carry a team. I got no one on the other side that I know can carry the team.
You're underestimating McCaffrey, I think, dude. This guy is a touchdown machine.
He is, but this is a different game, Jimmy. This
particular.
Go ahead.
I like San Fran's D line too, and here's the thing. You mentioned Brady, and I'm glad you did because he is the GOAT and he always will be. Mahomes,
he will not always be.
He will always be. Mahomes will find ways to win a Super Bowl, except when he lost to Tom Brady a couple years ago. People forget already, and they already want to say that he's better than Tom Brady. He's not even done untying his cleats from losing to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl practice. And the people want to say he's better than Tom Brady. He's nowhere near. And that's another reason why I'm not going to take the Chiefs on Sunday. I can't even fathom this. I'm not a good bettor because I can't bet with my brain if I do think the Chiefs are going to win. I cannot bet on Mahomes. I cannot bet on Kelsey because in my heart of hearts, I know that Brady and Gronk are better than Mahomes and Kelsey.
But Jimmy, your head is telling you that if Kansas City wins this game, the narrative becomes not that they're better.
Will be.
So it becomes a conversation that you absolutely have to have.
No, you don't.
You
don't have to have it. We're gonna have to have it because there's no other good storylines in the NFL. It's Mahomes and everybody else. But if you compare Mahomes' career to Brady's career, Brady has 3 of Mahomes' career. Okay, so if Mahomes has to do what he does on Sunday, he's going to do that 2 more times over again. He has to have his career 2 more times, and then we can have that conversation. But I know all the radio people and everyone on sports talk is going to have that conversation because they need to fill airwaves. But stats are the stats, championships are the championships, and those don't lie. Mahomes is nowhere near Brady at this point in his career. Talk to me in 10 years, we can have that conversation. That being said, if Mahomes wins on Sunday, yes, people will start talking about it, but we're not even close yet. If he loses on Sunday, I never want to hear it again. I'll say that. So that's where I'm at with that conversation. But anyways, that's the FanDuel read. So hopefully I did that. Hopefully I did that read justice. I'm not sure if we want to have to. But anyways, guys, $200 in bonus bets. If your first bet of $5 or more wins, visit FanDuel.com/Boston. Yes, Bobby Manning is going to be joining us. He's just waiting on Kristaps Porzingis. We will allow it because we do want to hear what Porzingis had to say tonight because he did have such a good game. Sherrod, another guy we haven't talked about yet that you did mention, Jrue Holiday. The other addition to this team, Jrue Holiday, brought it tonight. I don't have the
he was good, man.
Lower thirds, but 20 points on 9 of 13 from the field, 7 rebounds.
Yes.
5 assists. Again, didn't benefit from the plus minus department, much like Jaylen Brown tonight. Minus 11. I think he was a victim of a couple of Wizards runs there. But he was a part of that third quarter effective play by the Celtics. And so got to give him his flowers tonight.
He was good, man. I love the fact that the Celtics did a really good job of keeping the ball movement. And he was maybe one of, if not the biggest benefactor of that style of play. When the Celtics had the ball popping for some reason it found Drew wide open in the corner or wide open on the wing, and he made the Wizards pay repeatedly when that happened. And it's just good to see him just looking like that dude that we saw in Milwaukee for all those years. There's been some have questioned how much does he still have in the tank and things like that. Drew's got quite a bit in the tank, and I go back to something Porzingis said a few weeks ago where he talked about Drew Holiday has sacrificed more than anyone else on his team, and that's saying a lot when your teammates recognize just how much you are basically holding back, because that's not necessarily what the team needs in order to be successful. But they're going to be nice, but they're going to need Drew Holiday to get buckets. And this was one of those games where it was great to see him get into a flow, knock down big shots. He took only 2 threes and made them both. He got 7 rebounds, 5-6 assists. I think he had like 1 or 2 turnovers. He had a pretty good, well-balanced game. And like I said, they're going to need that from him from time to time as they make this journey through the playoffs and, for their sake, hopefully to, the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and again, he brings that toughness too. I mean, they just traded for a guy in Tillman who's got that toughness, but Drew Holiday's on the court, and we don't know what Tillman's role is going to be yet. And I think I'm not saying Holiday is this, badass guy on the court. That's not his game, but physically, he's tough. He plays hard. He can body up against pretty much anybody in the NBA. They'll put him up against, and that's a physical presence that you're going to need in the playoffs when the game does get physical. Now you've got a guy. If you get another situation where big bad boogeyman Butler is running around doing whatever he wants, and everyone on the Celtics is shaking in their boots except the one guy you don't want to be, Grant Williams, rest in peace. Right. Then you got a guy like Holiday who
Grant's alive. He's just in Charlotte. That's not technically dead.
His NBA career.
Jimmy, come up here. Rest in peace. He's in Charlotte, Jimmy. He's not in like some third world country.
I wouldn't say Charlotte, great city, but I wouldn't say the organization is where.
Damn, rest in peace, Grant.
We are gonna talk about Grant, guys, at the end of the show. We're gonna get Bobby on here. We're gonna ask him what his take is in the show on the game. Let him do his thing, and then we're gonna hit on a couple of things that
before we get off of Drew, though, Jimmy. I just want to point Drew. If they do wind up playing Miami Heat, it will be personal for Drew because Jimmy Butler absolutely filleted him last year. It was bad. The way Jimmy Butler outplayed him that was the point where folks started questioning how much did Drew still have left in the tank.
Is that when Giannis said, "Get him out of here"?
I don't know, but we all know Giannis has quite a bit of pull, and he's not the least bit shy about flexing that pull. I don't think that's what happened because I bottom line is
Butler. Drew. There you go.
Drew, I believe if they played Miami, we would see the best version of Drew. I think we would see like what we saw tonight, only even better. Because it's personal, man. I mean, Jimmy Butler made him look really bad.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Drew, the 20 points are great. You want to see that shot falling, because I think at the beginning of the year, people were wondering, like, okay, can he score? And we know that he can, but it's always been about the defense for Holiday, right? I mean, the points are a bonus. If you can get him 15 plus points a game, that's where you want to be. And just he made some good cuts tonight. I thought he made himself open. I think he was able to exploit some of the weaknesses on that Wizards defense, took advantage of it. And that's when Tatum, I think he probably benefited from a few of Tatum's passes tonight. And so, good on Holiday. It's a good veteran awareness of him. And maybe Cassell might be a guy that's they might have I don't know much about their relationship, working relationship, whatever, but I feel like they'd be good. There'd be a good, tandem together.
Yeah, and the other assistant coach, Charles Lee, who was in Milwaukee with Drew, that's another one that is really, I think, important. But the big thing with Drew, to your point, Jimmy, is his defense. Not only is it something that we recognize, but players in the league believe he's the best on-the-ball defender when they had that survey before the season started. And Drew Holiday was voted as the best on-ball defender by the guys who he is guarding. So to me, Drew is, again, I think him and Porzingis, the new guys that they didn't have around last year, they're both X factors for this team because they have the ability and the capacity to cause problems for opponents that the Celtics weren't quite able to do to the extent that they can now with those two guys. Bobby Manning.
Bobby Manning in the building, everybody. We were wondering if you were still here. How we doing, Bobby?
Good. Good finish to this one.
What's the vibe? Give us the vibe right now.
At least from talking to Kristaps, the only guy I heard from on the team, and of course Joe. There's not a ton of concern about this one because Joe's just reacted.
What was that, Bobby?
Joe's pretty much reacted. Well, Sherrod, Joe's reacted the same to pretty much all of these slip-up games recently.
Sure.
You know, whether it's the Lakers or the Hawks, and he even said he didn't feel like the Hawks was much of a slip-up game. He thought they defended well in that one, and he did say they played poorly in this one. So there's certainly admission of things they did wrong here, not just missed layups, which is kind of where I went because I know that's where his focus is usually on. But he said every missed shot kind of put the Celtics in a poor position in transition in this one. And the effort was bad. He said he showed them, 10 transition points they shouldn't have just because of effort at halftime. And, they had 36 in this game. So, transition defense is becoming a little bit of a concern for this team. And is it laziness? Is it positioning? Is it just the, lackadaisical approach some teams take this time of year? I know I've heard in different spots, Sherrod, 08 team even had a stretch like this around January, February, that you just don't care as much, especially going against this kind of team. So you get it. You get that mindset. I asked Kristaps, so at what point do you start to take that slippage seriously and tighten up a little bit? And I think they're probably getting to that point a little bit. And, they've really drilled some stuff hard in recent practices. I think Joe's talked a lot about how just situationally they're making some mistakes in key positions. And, he said they went through a walkthrough this morning that actually came up in the game. So Joe's mindset is that he's happy they're having these kind of games to try to figure things out in those moments. And if you win, I guess it's not the biggest deal in the world. And they did have some really nice stretches to win this game. But it just feels like this racing train that looked like it was going to be an 08 regular season or, one of the best regular seasons in Celtics history. Probably not the case. And listen, Jimmy, they've been missing guys in certain games and, they've been resting guys and stuff. So on those nights, I think you have to take that into consideration. The frustration on a night like this is you're at home, you're fairly rested, everybody's playing, and it really is a dreadful Wizards team on that other side that just made some trades and stuff too. So they're, missing their center tonight. I get Joe's sentiment that you're not just going to walk out there and win by 40, but you shouldn't give up 71 in the first half. I mean, that was tough to watch. So they got to tighten up. I mean, you're not going to win the championship in February against the Wizards, but there does have to be a general sense of urgency about this season, of habit building, of consistency, and just seriousness about the task at hand, right?
Absolutely. You got to form good habits in the regular season, and those carry over to the playoffs. We actually have a clip of your question to KP. Amit is going to toss it up there for us all to marvel at.
I don't think we need to overreact now because we haven't been playing or maybe beating everybody by 30 lately like we did in the beginning of the season. We can play better. For sure we can play better. And I think all of us, individually, we have to look at the things that we can do better. But overall, there's going to be different nights and variations of the games, and some teams are going to shoot crazy, like the Lakers game, and it's just, you're going to lose some of the games, even if you're, the better team on paper. Of course, we don't want to have bad habits, but I don't think we're nowhere near there, and I think the coaching staff is doing a great job of having us, do the necessary things to keep building towards.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that it?
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, I mean, he makes a good point about the fact that you can't overreact to these type of games. And something that Joe, and again, Jimmy, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but the point that Joe made about Washington does not typically shoot this way. To me, there's a twofold issue there. He's right. They don't normally shoot that well. But is it more of them just having a good night shooting the ball, or is there some defensive deficiency that's allowing them to shoot that well? And I thought this was a game of both. I thought that a lot of the shots that Washington was getting, that they were knocking down, were the kind of shots that if you're an NBA player, you should be making those shots. If you're coming out in transition and the Celtics are just, they're rolling back, and they give you like a good 4 or 5 feet to raise up from 3-point range, you should make that shot. And Washington, I thought, did a decent amount of knocking down those type of shots. So I don't think you hit the panic button or anything like that, but you need to be at least aware that you got to do better in that regard. You've got to close out better. You've got to, fight through screens. You've got to, not allow them to just keep swinging the ball without any type of stress or resistance for them doing that. And then the Celtics just didn't do a really good job in that regard, overall tonight, especially as Bobby pointed out, the transition game where they had a 36-18. They doubled the Celtics in fast break points, 36-18. You shouldn't be happening. Not to an elite defensive team.
And listen, everyone's going to get on Joe, and rightfully so, to quote Marcus Smart. But it's on a player at a certain point. It's on a player at a certain point, right, to step up in these kind of situations and assert some level of seriousness. And one thing I did like about that Lakers game, Jimmy, is that you did see Tatum on the sideline showing some demonstrative, show of urgency there, talking to teammates and, saying after the game, that you got to be better in these spots. You got to make adjustments after the Clippers game, some stuff like that. And, John says it all the time. The lip service after the game doesn't mean a ton. There's probably things being said internally on how to tighten up right now, but there's still a general feel of, whatever, it's fine. It's not a big deal. And I think that does, to some respect, reflect the mindset of the team, especially when you hear from Kristaps right there saying that, it's fine. And again, we know these are veterans. We know this stuff happens across the league. This isn't just a Celtics problem here. But this wasn't happening early in the season. They were playing with a level of consistency. And one of the things I think even Joe talked about early in the year was their ability to take care of business in these spots. The Bulls game, Joe wasn't saying after that one, whether you win by 3 or whether you win by 40, it was fine. He thought it could be a lesson that, you go up by 10, 20 against a team like the Bulls, and then you bring it to 30, 40. Like the in-season tournament, they were going for that scoring margin, and he thought, this could be a lesson in some other games against these kind of teams on how you just put them away, and most importantly, Sherrod, sit your starters down and get them some rest. They should not have to play 30 minutes with their starters to beat this team.
We literally had that conversation earlier on the show. I was making that point to Jimmy that, that was one of my disappointments in this game. The fact that Tatum's out there for 38 minutes, Jalen plays like 35, 36. They had like 3 or 4 guys that were playing in mid to high 30s when a team that has basically, what we're talking about, maybe a third, a fourth number of wins that you have, you shouldn't have to extend yourself like this. And the Celtics, that to me was a disappointment because it's a long season, and any chance you have to give your core guys, cut back their minutes a little bit and still emerge victorious, you need to take advantage of that. And because of, I think, the way they played in the first half, they didn't allow that to happen. And even though they had that great surge in the third quarter where they went up by as many as 15, they still didn't deliver the kind of impactful, dominant, putting this team away for now, and we're just not going to have to deal with them type of effort and performance. I mean, you have to go up by at least 20, 25 points against a team like this at some point. And that just never happened.
They never centered a night Sherrod.
Right.
And, to their credit, they did get the ball in some good positions, I thought, to score against that weakness. And the one thing I like that Joe said after the game is, in a matchup like this, you do have to shift the ball a little bit more inside. And I thought they utilized Porzingis tremendously. This was maybe his most dominant scoring night with the team in this one, and it was all at the basket His efficiency in there was incredible. He missed one at one point, got it right back and put it in. And it was like, whoa, because those have been like 70% shots for him. And, you know, it's like 8 feet out sometimes, but he still was putting it right up over these guys. So, you know, they found the mismatches in these games. I thought the offense was good. It's that transition defense that killed them in this one. There was just a lackadaisical approach to the defensive side of the ball that put them in a dangerous position in this game. It did feel like for a little bit there, Jimmy, this was creeping on a loss. And then they went on that phenomenal run to close the
There
third,
it is.
4-9.
Phenomenal.
And
It was a great third quarter. Absolutely.
shout out to Pritchard. The bench keeps getting a lot of crap. People want Lonnie Walker to replace him. And, you know, there was just a lot of anxiety about the bench going into the deadline. I thought they were awesome in this game. There's another one where I felt like
we haven't talked about them at all, so feel free to talk about Pritchard for a minute. I mean, guy almost had 2 half-court shots. I mean, he had 2, but
electric moments in the building too.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that even got me out of my seat. That second one, I thought that was. I
thought that was good.
Yeah, that was sweet.
And these, you know, Ahmed actually said it to me, Jimmy. Why isn't O'Shea Brissett playing in a game like this where the energy's an issue, where the effort's an issue? Those bench guys are going to give you that, and it's going to take a little bit of a load off your starters. And Tatum looked like was supposed to rest this game. He was on the injury report with the illness, and you know, we know how it goes. He wants to play all these games, so he probably fought his way into it. But this was an opportunity to get some Brissett minutes in and, you know, play Pritchard a little bit more, which I felt like they did in the second half, and he was tremendous. And this is what he's given you this year: some good energy, some good shot making, rebounding. I think he had 6 in this game, an occasional burst of playmaking as well. And, you know, the defense can be an issue sometimes, but they play good together as a team. And, you know, I don't know how much you talked about, you know, Brad's comments this morning, Jimmy, but he said that was the biggest reason he kept this bench together. He kept this rotation together because, you know, we kicked around piling up the whole bench and going again an Olynyk or, you know, some kind of bench scorer, a proven rotation level player who's a borderline starter. But, you know, they kept Cornette in here. They kept Hauser, Pritchard as your bench into the playoffs because they've played well all year. All 3 of those guys, I think, have played well all year, and they've played well together, which is what Brad said this morning. And so that's the important thing. Over multiple years, that group has built a chemistry, a togetherness, an ability to do the little things that supports the starters. And I think that's the most important thing with this team is you don't have bench guys who are trying to get their own shots or, you know, trying to do too much. They're doing things in support of the best players on the team here.
I think that, Bobby, that last point you made, I think is why Brad decided to keep him. Because remember, Pritchard had just a putrid stretch this year, and Luke had stretches where he was a non-factor, and Sam, he had his low points as well. But they have collectively figured out how to play well as a unit, even when they've had individual struggles per se. And I think if you're Brad, you know, if you look at the guys that they added, particularly Xavier Tillman, you have a specialist, a guy that does one thing really well, and you're not going to need it every night, but you might need it against the Knicks. You might need it against, a team that has a certain high level of physicality, and he can bring that to you. And I think if you're Brad, that made the most sense as opposed to going out and getting, let's say, a Kelly Olynyk, who can do some really nice things for you. But does he address a need that you currently have? You have guys who can stretch the floor in the front court with Porzingis and Al Horford. So you don't necessarily need someone to do that. But could you use another big who can be physical, it has a certain level of switchability defensively, and isn't going to get in the way of your offense because they need the damn ball? You didn't have that guy, but now you do with Xavier. So it makes the more you think about it, it makes sense for Brad to try to keep the bench band together and then add to that guys who have a very specific skill and strength that addresses an area where you need to strengthen up.
And one guy on this bench does one thing well, specifically across the board. And so now you add an element of on-ball defense against bigger guys, which you didn't have before. You know, you might have tried to throw Brissett into that spot, but that's not his strength. He's
not physical enough. Right.
Yeah, you have a rim protector in Cornette. You have an on-ball defender in Tillman now, offensive rebounder in Brissett, a shooter in Hauser, and a shooting ball handling guard in Pritchard. And
what do you think of this guy, Jaden Springer?
Solid.
He's really young.
Yeah, he's a prospect, and Brad talked about that today.
I got this question. Does he mean Jaden? And he said Jared. How do you guys feel about Jared getting Rob's number?
It feels a little
Rob who?
backwards. Someone tweeted me. Yeah, Rob Williams.
Yeah, seriously though. Why they didn't retire?
Out of sight,
that?
out of mind. Out of sight, out of
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
How do
no,
we
they
feel?
didn't.
That's a question for John Zanis. We'll have to ask him on Sunday how he.
No,
feels.
I think it's. Oh well, this guy's talking about that. Yeah, but someone else tweeted me, Jimmy, about how I felt a little backwards because Tillman got 26, feels more like a guard's number, and Springer got 44, which it's kind of weird. I think Banton had a weird number too, didn't he? Like 77 or something like that. So
Who's Banton? I don't remember any player named Banton.
Yeah, Banton was
he
doomed
stayed ready.
from the number. Doomed from the number.
He stayed ready, but he never got called.
Yeah,
but
ready for the flight out of town, I guess.
But this was a savvy move, Jimmy. And listen, I think the Sixers fans, because obviously, 45. Thanks, Luke. The Sixers fans were freaking out a little bit about this one, Jimmy, because they did effectively give up a guy they drafted a couple years ago just for some luxury tax relief here, it feels like, and to, open a roster spot for Lowry or whatever the hell they're going to do here. So, Daryl Morey was even getting some questions about it today. And the one thing he said was that he feels like Springer's a long way away and they needed an impact more immediate for their team. And that's fine. But the Celtics can afford to wait on a guy like this. I mean, think about how many guys they're developing at this point.
Right.
Walsh, Davison,
Peterson. Yeah.
So add him to that mix. He's going to be a stay-ready guy, Jimmy. I don't think he's here to steal Pritchard's role.
No,
but
not yet.
You went out and I think people should think about it like this. You were going to have the 41st pick in this year's draft. They pretty much used 41 on a guy who was drafted in the late 20s, I think.
Yeah, late first round, like 28th or something like that.
So you bought low on highly rated prospect who wasn't getting the appropriate attention where he was.
And then you threw in a couple of middle schoolers, just to make everything work. 27 and 30. And to me, that's Brad Brad's been pretty candid about team building, knowing that you're going to have a number of guys making major dollars. So you got to fill that bench and develop guys on low money contracts. And that's what they're doing. I mean, they're basically building that second unit with guys that have tremendous upside, but they have some kinks or some knocks against them, and they're going to try to smooth those out before.
And his is the offense, Sherrod. You look at the numbers; they're rough. He doesn't really have much of an offensive game at all. I think
other than layups and dunks.
Yeah, and he was pretty high on KOC's big board that year in 2021. I think he came in at 24th. Loves the defense, called him a relentless defender on the ball, but doesn't have much of a shot. Barely pulled up from three at all in his college days with Tennessee. And it's been a similar deal, 41% from the field through 3 years with Philly, 23% from three. So that's going to be the difficulty, Jimmy, playing him for long stretches. I don't think that's in the cards this year. But let's say, remember they used to go to Phil Pressey, Sherrod, and who's the other guy? Shane Larkin.
Yes.
I loved Shane Larkin.
I did too.
Nasty.
Shane Larkin is killing it overseas, but that's another story, another day.
I'm not surprised. He was nasty.
They went to those guys for a little change of pace sometimes, and those guys were like the third, fourth guard on the roster.
Right.
You couldn't do that with J.D. Davison. You probably can do that with Springer. And Brad actually said today he has the athleticism to play in the playoffs. I don't know if that was just like a stumble on his words, but he threw the word playoffs in there.
Bobby, this is what I think people are losing sight of, okay? Philadelphia is going to be a one-man team without Joel, and it's going to be Maxi's team. This guy has been in that mix for multiple years. If anyone knows how to not shut him down, because Max I think is just too good to shut down, but at least knows how to address him, attack him, those type of things defensively. This might be that wild card that they can throw out there in a series against Philadelphia that Philadelphia probably wouldn't see coming.
And they're going to teach him, Sherrod, the same thing they taught Banton. Screen a ton, roll a ton, offensive rebound, and just be a garbage man out there on offense. If you're not going to be able to shoot, if you're not going to be able to create your own shot or do any of those things, you're bringing it on defense. I mean, he is in the, I think Chris Forsberg tweeted out, Jimmy, he's in the 99th percentile in limited minutes, of course, for blocks and steals among guards. So he's been producing on the defensive end when he's gotten out there. It's just it's the zero on offense, and Philly couldn't figure out a way to use him. But Celtics do like using these guys as screeners, as rollers, as cutters. So they're gonna work on that with him. And I already saw him in the locker room with his former assistant here is Sam Cassell.
Yeah,
but he's got another former assistant here too, who was actually his development coach. I'm going to pull up his name here. But
it seems like a good landing spot for him then, right? I mean, you can develop him a little bit off the court. Not saying throw him in the fire here, but it's a guy that they didn't trade for the playoffs.
Tyler Lashbrook. You know? Yeah. Tyler Lashbrook was his development coach in Philly. This is his first year with the Celtics. So, they're reuniting, and they were getting right to work in the locker room before the game on some film. So they're going to be drilling him pretty hard to get some playing time here, and I think he's going to be ready to go Sunday probably. I think Tillman's probably going to be a little bit more of a long-term thing, waiting on him through some of the knee soreness there. But
something to be concerned about, or what?
No, I think it's just getting him right. He missed those last 4 games in his run with Memphis.
Why even playing before the All-Star break?
There's no rush, right? Yeah, right. You have 3 big men. Cato was here tonight. He wasn't active, but he can still use him if you really need to. He's got a back-to-back next week, so I'm sure he'll be active for those. So, yeah, I don't know if you'll see Tillman before the break.
Yeah, but the thing about Jaden that I think they should give some thought to is pulling out the old school starter kit for guards who can't score. Cut to the basket, the Avery Bradley plan. Remember, Avery had no jump shot for a while, but he was still getting you 8-10 points because he was just simply cutting really hard to the basket, finding those seams, and finishing at the rim.
Doesn't he remind you of that a little bit, Sherrod?
I used to say that to Gary Washburn all the time. I used to say elite cuts by Avery Bradley. I just kept saying it to Gary Washburn all the time, and it used to drive him crazy. So next time, you guys send him this clip, Sherrod, of us talking about Avery Bradley's backdoor cut, so maybe he'll finally believe me.
I will make reference to elite cuts. Elite cuts.
We used to say that a little bit about Romeo, Sherrod. There was some parallels there too, but I feel like there's a little bit more athleticism because Avery did come into Boston as like a leap through the roof kind of athlete, a real burst in transition, get blown by guys on those cuts. And, he didn't have a shot when he first got here. He didn't have a handle when he first got here. So he just had to do stuff like that to get his minutes. Right. But he was such a good defender. He got into those games, and it's going to be on Joe, right? And, Joe was talking a little bit before the game of, we'll find some situations for these guys. And, it's going to kind of be a matchup thing as it always is for minutes. And he said that about some of the bench guys to start the year too, who ultimately never carved out spots. Even Brissett had to kind of fight his way back into this rotation. So it's one of those things, Jimmy. It's not just a Joe thing. It's a coach thing, Sherrod. Coaches have their guys that they love, that they lean on, that they trust. And here come 2 new guys that, maybe don't know your system or your game plan as well as the guys who are already here. So where can you fit those guys in? That's going to be the challenge late in this season, because you do have, as you saw tonight, 8 guys who are already in this mix and who are already rolling to some degree. So it's going to be, along with some of the bumps and bruises both these guys are dealing with, a little bit of a process here to integrate them in. But you do want both of them, I think, ready for the playoffs because, listen, you're going to have to adjust, Jimmy, whether it's lineups, whether it's game plan, whether it's matchups. And those are 2 guys, whether it's a guard who's really giving you trouble or a big man who's really giving you trouble. That's what they're here for. You got to use them in those circumstances, and they got to be ready to go.
All right. I just want one thing, because I don't want to bore people to death with a Brad press conference segment. But what's one thing, if anything, that you took out of Brad's press conference today?
Yeah, I think it was the fact that they targeted a big man. That was the only thing they felt like this team needed. So clearly there's a level of trust in Pritchard. Clearly there's a level of trust in Brissett. is that extra wing, and Hauser too, certainly, who I think we already knew was going to be part of this mix here. And also an acknowledgement that there's a good thing here, and they didn't want to mess with it necessarily to try to get better, to try to bring in a big talent. And I do like the attention to detail, to go back to that Springer thing, of the long term. You know, John has said it. You got to start to think about draft picks. You got to start to think about prospects. And the way that they're starting to piece together some young guys here who can help them, I think is pretty savvy. And they've already accomplished it with Cornette and Hauser, you know, turn them from some undrafted and unsung G League guys into rotation players. That's the kind of way they're going to have to do it here, because all they really have are second round picks, late first. And one thing Brad said today is that, you know, a guy like Springer, he's younger than a lot of people in this draft. In fact, he said he was younger than most of the people that they're looking at in this draft. So is that a new way for teams to get some value on guys, you know, guys who aren't working out in other places, go and buy low on them and then put them into your developmental program? And, you know, some teams have had some success with that, namely the Heat. And, you know, you can think of some others who have done it well too. So we complained for so long, Jimmy, they can't develop young guys. They can't find unsung guys. And they're starting to do it now. And that's another credit to Brad. He's made the big moves, but now he's trying to make the small moves to help them too.
Figured out that he needs to. He's going to run out of money if he doesn't, right? All right, guys.
Absolutely.
We're gonna wrap it up here, but before we do, I got to do one last topic that we haven't had a chance to really talk to. I know you guys probably talked about it yesterday, Bobby. Old friend Grant.
I knew it.
Williams.
I knew it.
Sherrod, you know I couldn't skip.
Damn it! I thought we were gonna get away with not talking about my boy Grant.
Old
Damn it,
friend Grant Williams.
That's my guy.
Booted. I don't know. Did they even give him a plane to fly out of Dallas, or did they just tell him to hit the road?
Did they call a lift for him so he could get to the airport on time?
Traded to the Hornets for PJ Washington, Seth Curry, and a first-round pick. A hell of a return for the Mavs. But a little bit of extra news coming out today, and I don't know, you can believe it or not, is that part of this is a report from, I think, Tim McMahon. Is that his name? Dallas
it's Tim.
He's a big name in the Mavs beat world, and I don't know how well he's liked by some of those players. Certainly, Luka has had his run-ins, but he's reporting that part of the reason Grant was shipped out of town is because he changed his sneakers from Luka's signature sneaker to Tatum's signature sneaker, and maybe that rubbed Luka the wrong way. But I think prior to that, he was rubbing guys the wrong way, and they said that they just had to get rid of him. Is anybody surprised to at least hear that he was rubbing guys the wrong way and that they just had to say, dude, like, we can't deal with you anymore?
No, it's not a surprise. I mean, we've been around Grant enough to know that he is an acquired taste. Not everyone can stomach.
Putting it nicely, yeah.
And, you know, even guys that love him on his team will point out that he could be a pain in the ass sometimes. He can be really annoying. And for Dallas, you look at the two heads of the snake there, Luka and Kyrie. Grant doesn't seem like the type that would fit in seamlessly with those guys. And so it's not a surprise. It's not. And they got to, I mean,
Luka's a little bitch too, though. I can definitely see him being like, get this guy out of here. He's not even wearing my sneakers.
He's not wearing my sneakers. Yeah. That's so damn petty, though. I'm sorry. You're going to trade it. Of all the reasons you could possibly have to get rid of a teammate, because he doesn't wear my damn sneakers. Come on, seriously? Seriously?
I don't know. Lucas got that like.
It's just a smoke screen to say, I don't like you. Get the hell out of get the hell out of town. I don't like you. I don't like you. And I'm gonna come up with some bullshit.
How many conversations do you think Kyrie Irving had with Grant Williams? Like, honestly,
zero.
Kyrie doesn't even know.
There was a photo early on of him turning down the bench talking to him, and Kyrie was just kind of staring back. Listen, I know he's a handful. I know he's loud. We heard it here. All his teammates here said the same thing openly. And it's part of the experience. And I'm sure he was trying to lead the guys. Remember at the beginning of camp, he was giving like a little speech to the guys in a circle and all that. The fact is, I'm sure all this stuff's true and the conjecture and everything else. And I'm sure there were some annoyances in terms of him in the room. But at the end of the day, they traded him because he wasn't playing well. and he lost his starting spot. And
You can't
they
be
went out.
annoying and suck. You can be annoying and be good. You can't be annoying and suck. That's not good.
And you have to be confident too. And it feels like he lost that confidence a little bit. Now he's still shooting well from three. I still think he gives you some positional versatility defensively. I mean, he's not a guy who's going to make it. He's not Rudy Gobert. He's not going to transform your defense just by being there. But I think as part of a bunch of other guys who are defending, he can be a nice piece. And that's what he was in Boston here. And I still think he's the guy he was in Boston, a defensive shot maker who needs to focus on a narrow role. So I'm going to put most of the blame on the Mavs.
You're not ready to go apology cam on this yet?
No, because I think this is a dumb move by the Mavs. You go out and trade a first to make. So maybe here you look at this and say yes, but remember what they gave up to get Grant. They had to trade a first to clear some space to get him, and then they had to trade 3 seconds to the Celtics for the sign and trade. So that's a first and 3 seconds to bring him in, and now you're giving up another first to send him out for a guy in PJ Washington who you could have signed last summer. He was a free agent. He was just sitting there.
Yeah. It's like we don't want that car, and then 6 months later we're gonna. What's that?
There's a first going to Dallas. Seth Curry going to Charlotte, rather. So Seth. This graphic's throwing me off here. Curry's going to.
It's not accurate, I don't think. Then, right?
It's just out of order.
It's out of
Curry's going to Charlotte. Washington's going to Dallas. Grant's going to Charlotte with a first. So they're sending a first to Charlotte to dump Grant.
That's what I thought.
And take in
Washington. They got PJ Washington, who's I would think most people would say is a better player than Grant, right?
Yeah, worse 3-point shooter, better 2-point shooter, and taller, and has more offensive upside in terms of creating his own shot. He's a little inconsistent. He's not the same defender Grant is, and he's a little more expensive too. Grant was making 12. I think PJ's making like 16, 17. So I don't like it. I don't think it changes much. Maybe he'll play well for Dallas and give them higher upside and size on the wing, but it
just goes to show that they made him. I think they're basically eating it, right? They're basically saying, yeah, this isn't going to work. Grant's not the right fit for this team. We're going to get a better player. In order to do so, yeah, we're going to have to give up another asset, another, big asset. But this is how badly we need to make this move while we can.
And maybe they're right. But it still looks dysfunctional. It still looks frantic. It still looks panicky. Right. And I don't think it solves their biggest issues. Their best players don't defend well. And Kyrie's injured all the time, and Luka does so much to their benefit and also their detriment, because he tires himself out late in these games, and all these other guys are just kind of standing around waiting for him to throw them the ball. And you thought Grant might benefit from that, just having to stay in the corner and shoot threes. And listen, Grant shares some of this blame, because I think he left Boston saying, I can do more. I can be a guy who creates off the dribble. I can be a guy who goes into the paint and shoots there. And even Ime said a couple of years ago, Grant's at his best when he's focused on a narrow role. And, is this a humbling moment for him, going to a Charlotte team that's going to really be bad for the rest of the year? Who knows what he ends up this offseason. But that's what you got to hope for if you're rooting for Grant going forward, is that he does kind of look at things and say, all right, Boston, what I was doing in Boston was really where I was my most successful. And right. Listen, me, Jimmy, I'd love to have him back on this team one day, at the right price and right role and all the rest. So who knows? Maybe
you'd like to have Fournier, you'd like to have Hayward, you'd like to have Grant, you'd like to have Marcus. If it was up to you, Bobby, it would just be like the 2018 team forever.
I gave a
2019 team forever.
I think I gave an apology cam on Fournier, but I will not give one on Grant yet.
You won't give one on Grant yet.
You forgot about Terry Rozier. You forgot about bringing back Terry Rozier. Might as well bring T. Rose back if you're bringing back.
That's one guy I would bring back is T. Rowe. T. Rowe can.
I wasn't doing the show then, but I did want Hayward back.
You did, but that's okay. I think a lot.
You like the Hayward to OKC move, Jimmy?
Doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, if I'm OKC, sure, why not? I mean, Hayward still got a little bit left to play there. I mean, I think it's safe to say his career in Charlotte went a lot like his career everywhere else he's played. It was unfinished, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was injury marred, and unfortunately, he hasn't really been able to show his stuff since that injury, which we don't need to even talk about, right? So if you're the Thunder, you get a guy who can still shoot. It's not like he forgot how to shoot. What's his role going to be? How is he going to interact with SGA and that team there? I guess we'll find out. But for me, if I'm OKC, why not? They want to be a contender, and he doesn't need to be the number one guy or the number two guy on that team, right? I mean, he's going to fit into his role there and slide in and give them some scoring in certain situations, and that's really all they can hope for. It's a flyer.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moves of the day. I like Royce O'Neal to Phoenix. I think that fills a need when they didn't have much to give up. I love the Bogdanovich deal for New York.
about
Love
this
the
one?
Tillman deal for Boston. It's fine.
It's kind of interesting. Two
Won't make my
contenders.
top 5.
I love Damon and Patrick now being teammates.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw a clip of Pat Bev tonight on the Bucks bench, just like ripping into the team, and like he had like the the playbook in his hand, or the whiteboard on it's like, dude, like you just got that. Why don't you just like take a step back for a second? These guys don't probably
Can't
even
do
like
it.
you yet.
So according to him, the Celtics were looking to sign him last summer, and I don't know. After Grant and Smart go out the door doing this kind of stuff, are they going to bring in another guy doing that kind of stuff?
I know. I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
he would probably rub some guys. Speaking of rubbing guys the wrong way, I feel like Pat Bev might be one of those guys. Plays hard. Got to give him that. He plays hard, and he's a good
I
defender.
liked him on Philly.
Yeah.
I think there's a serious question of whether
Doc
them giving him up-
obviously Doc's guy. I mean, Doc.
I don't think it's going to help Milwaukee much, but I think there is a question of whether Philly's losing something here. And they're going to bring in Kyle Lowry, obviously. But would you rather have Lowry or Beverly?
Ooh, I'd rather have Beverly.
Yeah, and they trade him to another contender, too. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Beverly. And I don't like Beverly, but I'd rather have him over Kyle.
And they get
Well,
Kane here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Kyle has left, really, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
he's a savvy player. He can still do things because he's smart, but physically and scoring wise, he doesn't bring the same ability.
Right.
And Philly's the weird team in all this, right? If Embiid's there, it's a dangerous addition alongside Embiid. But if he's not there, it's like, why is Hield here on an expiring contract? And what's Lowry doing here? So they're clearly putting together a team that if Embiid comes back can go on a little bit of a run. But how far do they fall while he's out? Does he come back at all? Those are still serious questions there. So, nothing happened in this deadline, Jimmy, that I think scares you as a Celtics fan in the East.
Nothing that was major NBA earth-shattering stuff. I mean, there was the LeBron rumors that were floating around to keep things interesting, but nothing to that level, obviously, and nothing really close. So it's, in my opinion, the Celtics, they're currently at the top. And I think it's their conference to lose. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Once we get to the playoffs, and if they do make it to the finals, that's a whole nother story. But you got to like where this team's at right now, especially after another night of you didn't really get a chance to talk about him too much, Bobby, but we'll get into it another time. But Porzingis, they're getting him more involved now. And if they can get him to be that, like, I mean, man, he could be their first, second, third best guy on any given night, just by using him more and giving him the ball and to say, hey, do your thing. Doesn't really matter where you are. Just be aggressive and shoot over the defender. If they get into that mindset, they're going to be a hard team to stop, assuming they can stay healthy. So that's going to do it for us, guys. Again, we want to thank FanDuel, great sponsor of ours. Get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/Boston. Bobby, I did get Sherrod's bet, if you will, for Sunday's big game. He's going with the Chiefs plus 2.5. What is your bet going to be?
I like the Chiefs. I feel like I just have to go Niners because it feels like the whole world is betting the Chiefs right now. And there's got to be something.
Public is on the Chiefs. Public is on the Chiefs currently.
In an overwhelming way, right? So you look at that and you start to think, all right, what's going on here? Now, I hate giving up points. I would have loved Jimmy right away, right when the Chiefs won, they were plus 3.5. I think that was the magic number right when it came out. But, again, there was an explosion of bets on the Chiefs. Sure, there still are. So it's clearly going to be a tight game. It's clearly going to be a contested game. I think it's going to be a great one, a memorable one between these two teams here. Can Mahomes carve it out at the end? Can he have more magical moments here? Because they've really had a fight, to win these last two games here. This Niners team's loaded, and I think people are overlooking that a little bit. People are probably overlooking Purdy a little bit. I think he's better than he's getting credit for, and their defense is a monster.
I'm with
as
you.
Well.
I'm with you, Bobby. I'm going Niners. I think the Niners are a stronger team from top to bottom. The Chiefs, I'll give them credit. They've found ways to win in the playoffs. It hasn't been a strong Chiefs team this year. And I had Mahomes as my fantasy quarterback this year. He was mediocre, like as far as Mahomes.
But they've been a different team in the playoffs.
They have been, but now they're going to play a team that deserves to be there in the Niners. The Ravens beat themselves last week or 2 weeks ago. If the Niners can limit the mistakes and Purdy can limit the interceptions, feed Christian McCaffrey, feed Deebo Samuel's another offensive weapon who can run the ball and obviously a good catcher, good receiver, catcher. What am I talking about? I just think that they're a team that's going to be difficult to take down. It's going to be close. It is going to be a good game. I'm excited for it. I will be hosting. Going to have some food going, so it should be a fun time.
Guess where I'll be.
Are you going to be in Miami?
Miami.
You and Joe Sway are going to Miami.
Yeah, we're going to have to find a spot to watch it. Of course, the Celtics are on at 2 that day, so join us for a post game right after.
Yeah, so I was going to say, we're going to have a nice run up to the Super Bowl. We're going to have Joe Sway and Bobby live in Miami, assuming they make the game. And I'll be out partying too hard Saturday night in Miami. And then,
I have never needed a road trip more. I'm looking forward to this one.
You know what, Bobby? You deserve it. You deserve a road trip. How about that? So, yeah, you guys are going to Miami, and then what? Is it just
Brooklyn on Tuesday?
Okay, there you go. Miami and Brooklyn. So keep it locked on CLNS. We will see you guys Sunday. Enjoy your weekend, and we will hit the outro. Peace. Hold up. That was the intro. Hold up. Where's the outro, dude? Hold on. Here it is. Wait, Amit's got an outro for us, I think.
No, he doesn't.
He said he was going to work on an outro.
He had a phenomenal game.
Phenomenal game.
Forfeit's out. I think it's an auction.
That did not sound like a share.